Anti-Kremlin fighters have claimed to have taken control of the town of Novaya Tavozanka in Russia's Belgorod region. The victory was claimed through a video message. However, it remains unclear if this is the start of the much-anticipated Ukrainian counteroffensive. The claims came after Russia's defense ministry said that it had repelled a Ukrainian attempt to cross into the Belgorod region on Sunday and it killed more than 10 fighters. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky met British Foreign Secretary James Cleverly in Kyiv on Monday. He discussed preparations for a NATO summit and Ukraine's efforts to end Russia's invasion. Zelensky thanked Cleverly for Britain's continued support of Ukraine and discussed the supply of air defense systems following recent attacks by Russian missiles and drones. US President Joe Biden, during a White House meeting with Danish Prime Minister, said that the two countries are working together to address Russian aggression in Ukraine. Danish Prime Minister's visit to the United States comes amid speculation that the White House will use the visit to vet her as the first female NATO Secretary General. According to the diplomats, Danish Prime Minister has emerged as a serious contender to replace Jens Stoltenberg, who is scheduled to step down as the chief of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in September. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is set to embark on a 3-day visit to Saudi Arabia. He has called for the normalization of ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Blinken is expected to arrive this evening in Jeddah. In the next 2 days, he will be in Riyadh for a ministerial meeting of the Gulf Cooperation Council. Members of this 80-strong coalition of countries fighting the Islamic State group will also meet in Blinken's presence. Now, besides his diplomatic counterparts, Blinken is expected to meet with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. US and Chinese officials held talks in Beijing on Monday amid the rising tensions between the two countries. According to the US State Department, these talks were candid and productive. During the mid-level talks, the US State Department, said that both the sides discussed bilateral relationship, cross-strait issues, among other matters. Talks came just days after US and Chinese warships had a dangerous interaction in the Taiwan Strait. Amid the rising tensions, both the nations are engaging in continued diplomacy. However, military escalation continues to intensify US-China rivalry. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang on Monday met with a delegation of Germany's Social Democratic Party in Beijing. Li said that the two countries should do more to maintain strategic resolve and strengthen dialogue and coordination amid a world of change and disorder. Li expressed the hope that the SPD would play a significant role in promoting the steady growth of China-Germany ties, while German officials said that his party is making efforts to ensure sustained and steady development of Germany-China ties and EU-China ties. China officially inaugurated its embassy in Honduras on Monday, just weeks after the Central American country switched its diplomatic allegiance from Taiwan to Beijing. In March, Honduras cut diplomatic ties with Taiwan and recognized China. Honduran foreign minister told journalists that the country's president would travel to China on Tuesday for her first official visit, scheduled for the 9th of June to the 13th of June. South Korea's President Yoon Suk Yeol has said that North Korea is advancing its nuclear and missile capabilities and has legalized the use of nuclear weapons. He said that the South Korea-US alliance has now been elevated to a nuclear-based alliance and that both governments' military will establish an ironclad security posture and protect the people's lives and safety. These remarks came at a Memorial Day ceremony in Seoul. Diplomats from the European Union and the United States arrived in Pristina on Monday as part of efforts to ease tensions between Kosovo and Serbia following last week's unrest in Kosovo's northern region. Senior US diplomat for the Western Balkans emphasized obeying the letter of law and harmony between ethnic groups, a political crisis that has spiraled into violence in Kosovo's north. It's intensified since ethnic Albanian mayors took the office in the region's Serb-majority area, a move that led the United States and its allies to rebuke Pristina. A group of European Union justice ministers met in the Belgian port city of Antwerp on Monday to discuss better coordination in tackling cross-border drug-related crime. Last year, a record 110 tons of cocaine was intercepted at the Belgian port, accounting for 40% of all the seizures in Europe. Belgium's justice minister said that the EU countries shared a concern about rates of drug-related violent crime, necessitating this coordinated response. EU's top court has ruled that Poland's 2019 justice reforms infringed the bloc's rule of law. The ruling came as the bloc's executive argued that the Polish Supreme Court lacked the necessary independence and impartiality to rule on the matter. Poland introduced a law in 2019 that prevents Polish courts from applying EU law in certain areas and from referring legal questions to the European Court of Justice. The Luxembourg-based ECJ has now said Poland's ruling law and Justice Party's judicial reforms were damaging the independence of judges and undermining the rule of law. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken pledged continued US commitment to both Israel's security and the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. However, though he did warn the expansion of Jewish settlements would be an obstacle to peace, Blinken also cautioned that moves towards annexation of Israeli-occupied West Bank would hurt the prospects of a two-state solution. A 3-year-old Palestinian boy who was wounded by Israeli gunfire last week died of his wounds. According to the Palestinian and Israeli officials, the victim's father said that he, along with his son, were driving to visit relatives on Thursday when their car came under fire from nearby soldiers. Israeli army said soldiers returned fire after 2 suspected Palestinian assailants opened fire against the settlement, and that the toddler was wounded despite military's every effort to avoid non-combatant casualties. The official investigation into India's deadliest rail crash in over 2 decades has begun. At least 275 people died and 1,200 were injured in the collision. India's Railway Board has recommended that the Federal Central Bureau of Investigation take over the probe into the cause of disaster following non-stop efforts to rescue survivors and clear and repair the track. Trains resumed running over that section of the line on Sunday night. However, some family members of those who died in the crash in Balasore are facing confusion as they wait for the collection of bodies from a nearby hospital. A year after the murder of British journalist Dom Phillips, an indigenous expert Bruno Pereira deep in the Amazon rainforest, friends, relatives, admirers gathered to call for justice and protection of indigenous lands. Phillips and Pereira were on a trip to the remote valley near the border with Peru. Days later, fishermen who had confronted indigenous patrols in the area confessed to killing them. Police have said that the alleged leader of a local gang planned the murders because Pereira posed a threat to its illegal fishing operation. At least 42 people were dead in Haiti after torrential rain triggered flooding and landslides. Dozens went missing. Many were injured throughout the country. According to the United Nations, the severe rain affected over 37,000 people, displaced some 13,400. Over 13,600 homes are also listed as flooded. The distressed population in the country is in urgent need of food, drinking water and medical help. The floods have destroyed many homes and damaged several roads. The floods come as an added disaster, causing additional problems for people and authorities of the country. Thick cloud of pollution hovered over the skyline of Chile's capital, Santiago, on Monday. According to climatologists, Santiago is South America's most polluted city. Chile's health minister says that the number of cases of respiratory diseases in children that's increased over the last few weeks. To avoid the spread of seasonal disease, authorities have asked people to adopt measures such as constant hand washing and the use of face masks. Canada is facing an especially severe wildfire season this summer and could be on track for its worst ever year of wildfire destruction. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said blazes are burning in nearly all Canadian provinces and territories, and the federal government officials said their modelling shows increased wildfire risk in most of Canada through August. By Sunday, about 3.3 million hectares had already burnt and more than 120,000 people had been at least temporarily forced from their homes. Tech giant Apple has unveiled a range of exciting new products and upgrades. The showstopper is the highly anticipated augmented reality headset called Vision Pro. It's the company's first major new product since the Apple Watch in 2014. This gadget is going head-to-head with other AR sets like Meta's Quest and Sony's PlayStation VR. It will cost $3,500, 3 times higher than Meta's priciest device, and will be available early next year. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.